13.8 billion years ago, the universe began as a tiny dense fireball which exploded, creating the very reality we live in today. We thought we saw the beginning of a new era. Momo the Melon. Incredible. Alright, now that we got the spaz of Twitter meme out of the way, let's get serious. There are many accomplishments in Osu that are achieved by only a small handful of people. Only a select few can say that they're top players, and even fewer can say that they were crowned Osu champions. And reaching number 1 on the Osu global rankings is something attained by even less people, as only 36 players have managed to reach the summit of the Osu world. But something even more trivial and achieved by even less people is completion. That is, to play every single beatmap in the entire game. The concept of completion is simple. For every single ranked beatmap that exists, you must set a score on every single one. While this is easy to understand, obviously on its own, this is no easy feat. There are thousands upon thousands of beatmaps that exist, and new ones are being made and ranked every single day. As time passes and more beatmaps are made and ranked, Osu completion is something that only gets more difficult. It's a commitment that takes years to complete and thousands of hours of grinding each day just to keep up with the new beatmaps that come out on a daily basis. Yet, despite the challenges Osu completion puts players through, the time it demands just for players to keep pace day after day, and the toll it takes both physically and mentally, there are those willing to brave the storm and leave their mark on Osu history. And as a result of their tireless grinding, there are few players that have risen to the occasion and defeated Osu's most grueling task. Xasuma was the first to do this, and he popularized the concept as a whole. After reaching number 1 on the Osu score rankings in 2017, he decided that he would do something that no one had even attempted to try. He was going to play every single ranked beatmap that was ever made. This goal of his was something completely unheard of and sounds like a fever dream, but he committed himself to doing so. And all of a sudden, this far-fetched goal started to become a reality. And then after submitting a score on 60,845 beatmaps, Xasuma became Osu's very first completionist on April 27th, 2019. The very first player in Osu history to submit a score on every single Osu beatmap in existence. As a reward for his ungodly dedication, the Osu staff decided to reward Xasuma with the unique player title of the First Completionist to commemorate his achievement. He truly lived up to what he said in his Osu profile, where he said that he would break records after every map. And after countless hours of grinding, he became the first to reach Osu completion. Now that he proved that it was possible, others decided to take inspiration and start pushing for completion themselves. And that includes Przegrany. He started his journey towards completion on August 10th, 2019, and he grinded away at the goal like there was no tomorrow. Every month, he would log a play count in the high thousands as an effort to keep up with the newly ranked beatmap since Xasuma's completion date. With the immense amount of time he was putting into his journey to completion, it seemed inevitable that Przegrany would achieve completion, and he would do so just 2 years after he committed himself to finish what he had started. After an insane 82,298 beatmaps later, Przegrany would become the second player to accomplish Osu completion on August 11th, 2021, more than 2 years after Xasuma and requiring 21,453 more beatmap players to reach 100% completion. To celebrate his accomplishment, Willie made a video talking about Osu completion and how Xasuma and Przegrany were the only 2 players to reach 100% completion. It was a great time to be involved with the Osu community, but if you look in the comments section, there was one comment from someone who would soon change the game in more ways than one. On March 13th, 2017, Xasuma would respond to a Reddit thread from someone who wanted to try Osu completion for themselves. He said that they would most likely end up giving up on their goal, but there was a clear message. He wanted someone to prove him wrong, because he wanted some competition at the top. When he reached number 1 on the score rankings 2 months later, he said that no one should ever attempt doing anything like this, and no one dared to try. For the longest time, he waited for someone to challenge him at the top, but no one came. For years, he stood alone, and in that time, he built the largest gap on the score rankings that Osu had ever seen. He waited for someone to arrive and give him motivation, but there was truly no one in sight. Eventually, the lack of competition at the top would make Xasuma go inactive. Even with his lack of activity, he stood in an untouchable position. It would take someone with unmatched dedication to stand a chance against him, but behind the scenes, there was someone who had a chance of doing the unthinkable. His name was Momo the Melon. He, like Xasuma, had the goal of reaching number 1 on the score rankings and finishing Osu completion. But unlike everyone who might have tried before him, he actually had the resolve to do it. But before everyone had their eyes set on his progression towards completion, everyone first looked to his rise on the ranked score leaderboard. With the thousands of plays that he was logging in every single month, it was only a matter of time before he would rise up the ranks of the score leaderboard. He passed Wolf to reach number 4 on the score rankings on May 15th, 2020. And 6 days later, he would reach number 3 on May 21st. And just a few weeks after that, he would reach number 2 on the Osu score rankings on June 3rd, 2020. He increased his ranked score count by more than 20 billion in the span of just 16 days. That was the only proof that people needed to know that Momo had it within him. The gap between him and Xasuma was still immense. immense, at more than 140 billion ranked score. But now he was in a position to bring himself ever so closer to the top spot, and so he went to work. But no one could have ever thought that this score lead would ever evaporate this quickly. The rate that he was going at in terms of building up his rank score was something out of this world. After years of searching for the one who could try for Xasuma's crown atop the score rankings, Momo was the one that could make it happen. And we didn't have to wait for long. As Momo tirelessly worked towards completion and grinding out as much score as he can through countless hours of playing, he stood on the brink of making history. Less than a year after he reached number 2 on the score rankings, he would find himself within 1 billion rank score from overtaking Xasuma, and he was stopping at nothing. He was closing the gap at such a fast rate that Xasuma would come back from his period of inactivity to try and defend his number 1 ranking, and he wasn't going to let it go that easily. On April 15th, 2021, Momo would overtake Xasuma for number 1 on the score rankings for the very first time. But this moment of glory was short-lived, because a few minutes later, Xasuma would take the number 1 spot right back. It was fitting that the battle for the top of the score rankings would be a heated one between 2 of the greatest score players of all time. But eventually, Momo would prevail, as he would surpass Xasuma for number 1 once again and stay at the top for good. Xasuma held number 1 on the score rankings for 1,442 days in a row, which was almost 4 years straight of untouchable dominance. By far the longest consecutive time at number 1. But all that came to an end at the hands of Momo. But he wasn't done just yet. Now that he finally surpassed his main inspiration on the score rankings, it was time to join him in the ranks of becoming an Osu completionist. And so the grinding continued. History was lying on his fingertips, and he didn't let this moment go to waste. Momo would soon be the first to break several score barriers that no other player had reached. He became the first player in Osu history to reach 500 billion rank score. And then he did the same with 600, 700, and 800 billion rank score. And in the midst of his journey to completion, he would soon pass Przegrany for the most amount of Osu standard clears. And it was at this moment where Momo had less than 10,000 maps remaining before completion. He was in the home stretch. With every day that passed, that number was dwindling down. And after a few months of more dedication, there were less than 100 maps left. The remaining maps that he had left over were specifically handpicked by Momo himself. And finally, it was time for his final stream before completion. Thousands of viewers tuned in to Momo's stream as they watched him play the remaining maps he had specifically left over before he would accomplish completion. The maps that he chose to play on this stream were interesting to say the least, as they featured a mixture of memes and crazy background videos. Despite the silliness of the stream, the hype was undeniable. Everyone in the community cheered him on as his final countdown towards completion got him closer and closer to his coveted milestone. And before we knew it, there was only one beat map left. The map that he chose to save for last was Dancing Kung Fu, which is the most Momo ending we could have asked for. Nothing could describe the emotions that were rushing through everyone's mind as they were spamming the same copy pasta in both Momo's Twitch chat and all over the internet. Because once Momo got his FC, it was all over. On March 12th, 2023, MomoTheMelon officially became Osu's 3rd completionist after 99,842 beatmap clears. It took nearly 7,000 hours of playtime and a play count of almost 350,000, but he had done it. And he didn't stop there. Soon, Momo would continue on and become the first player ever to reach 100,000 beatmap clears. Momo wasn't a stranger to making Osu history, and now he did so in possibly the greatest way possible. With the craziness of his achievement, the Osu staff decided to create a new player title of Osu Completionist to give to both Momo and Przegrany as an official way to honoring those who brave the task of completion. And after a long period of struggle, Momo had etched his name in Osu history once again. 3 years ago, he announced to the world that he would follow in the footsteps of Xasuma and achieve completion. And while he was willing to embark on this insane journey, it was never easy. Burnout was a common issue, and sometimes other things in life tried to stop him. Countless times he doubted himself, but now he finally achieved his end goals. I feel like this tweet from Miss Maggie summarizes everything very nicely. Never give up, because you truly never know what will happen.